Hi, I'm Leonie Martin from Action Against Hunger Germany. At this year's Human Rights Film Festival Berlin, we have the opportunity to screen the film Gaza, directed by Garry Keane and Andrew McConnell. Today, I have the chance to talk to Lukas Honauer, country director for the occupied Palestinian territory for Action Against Hunger. So first of all, I would like to thank you, Lukas, for agreeing to this interview and sitting down with me, especially in these troubled times in the occupied Palestinian territory. So, in the film Gaza, we screen at the Human Rights Film Festival Berlin. It shows the daily life in the Gaza Strip and the tensions at the borders, the limitations the population has to face every day. So now the situation even worse during because of the tensions during the past weeks, and even on top of that, COVID-19. So could you please describe for our audience what exactly ACF is doing in the region and how the current challenges changed your work?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Leonie. That's true. In the Middle East, the mandate of ACF is maybe a bit less straightforward than when we work in other continents like Africa. How do you fight against hunger when you're in the Middle East and when you are in the occupied Palestinian territory? Well, one of the first mandates for Action Against Hunger is as well the humanitarian response and humanitarian imperative as well. And that's true. The humanitarian situation when you are in a place like Gaza, of course, is very difficult to live in a day-to-day basis in this area. And as you say, the tension between the factions present in Gaza and between the Israeli side as well is just putting the population in the middle of a conflict, and they just bear with the consequences of that conflict. So basically, as Action Against Hunger, we'll try to support over there the health facilities in terms of access to water and clean water, to be sure that the treatment can be accessible in the best way. And we will try to support as well the household, both in the emergency response and in the emergency situation that they will face. Of course, we think about escalation, but climate change is one as well for the population over there. So accessing to basic livelihoods in those short-term period, and then in the longer term as well, make sure they can have access to livelihood opportunities, access to business, access to jobs, employment. That's the kind of work we're gonna do.
So you already mentioned or touched the question of daily life in the Gaza Strip, which suffered for such a long time already from the blockade, which worsened during the past weeks. So how does daily life look like in Gaza? Are there markets open? Can you conduct businesses? So could you give us a quick impression of that?
It's very challenging first, which is already difficult for people to cope with, because you have such a huge uncertainty of what's going to be tomorrow, or what are going to be the opportunities for you tomorrow to grow your business, your activities, that it puts you already in the state of mind that is difficult. If we take the example of the last couple of weeks, it's a good one. Starting from beginning of August, the tension increased between the Gaza factions once again and Israel. Gaza faction launching balloons and rockets to Israel doing retaliation airstrikes overnight. People had like 15 to 20 days straight from one to another every night with airstrikes. So that's something you have to deal with your family, with your kids. On top of all of this, COVID-19 just started at community level. We didn't know so far if COVID-19 was spread at community level in Gaza. The positive cases that were tested were limited to quarantine centers, because since the beginning of the outbreak, there is strict measures to get in or out of Gaza. Any people coming in Gaza will have to do a 3 weeks quarantine inside a quarantine center. So 21 days of quarantine in a quarantine center with tests at the beginning and at the end. But that was measures felt at least to be effective to contain the virus. Now, since the end of August, positive cases have been tested inside the community. So lockdown is in effect. The lockdown that we all knew, we all lived all around the world, most of us. But then imagine having a lockdown at home, with your kids, with your family, with 3 hours of electricity, no business, when your business opportunity is already very limited, where your income is not there as well. So yeah, you can imagine all of what it triggers for people in Gaza. And once again, this uncertainty of what is tomorrow going to be.
Thank you so much for this vivid impression. Wow. So I would like to shift a bit more towards the food supply of Gaza with my next question. Because in the film, the sea appears as a main focal point for the inhabitants of Gaza. So people gather, children play, but especially fishermen ply their jobs. And I was wondering, with the even further exacerbated restrictions during the past weeks and the already horrifying situation, which role does fishing play in Gaza, also for the food supply of the inhabitants?
It does, of course. Fishing is still limited due to the restrictions of the blockade as well. So the limitation in terms of being in the sea and the nautic miles above which the fishermen will be able to fish is limited and subject to changes according to many tensions or the escalations that are going to occur. But that's a very good example of the past couple of weeks as well. So the escalation not only brought the closing of the border and the exchanges, but as well the full closures of the fishing area, meaning no fishermen were able to fish and to go outside. So they were all directly impacted in their livelihood and their way of living. But of course, as you say, that's as well an impact on the availability in the market. Now, luckily, the discussions and negotiation arrived to a term and an agreement at the end. So this happened only early this week, so beginning of September, and fuel is restarting, but as well, the nautic mile is reopened up to 15 nautic miles. So fishermen are able to go out again. But COVID-19 is here now, so it means there is lockdown, so they're not supposed to go out anyway. And even though they can go out with restriction, physical distancing, and all the measures that you take, the hours to go out are limited as well, from 4 a.m. in the morning to 9 a.m. and then to 4 p.m. in the afternoon to 9 p.m. So of course, for fishermen, I mean, doesn't give them the full capacity to exploit the sea and the fishing.
So according to the United Nations, from this year on, Gaza will be an uninhabitable place. And I was wondering, how is your assessment of the situation being on site at the moment?
People are still there. That's the first thing. So uninhabitable, yes, that's a key indicator that was put in place by the UN and yeah, the better answer is yes, this statement and this status of people living in Gaza is still there, but people are still there, and 2 million people are still living there. More than 90% of the water that is distributed is not fit for consumption. So, I mean, this only indicator already talks for itself. So how do you do when you cannot even drink the water that comes from your tap as well, and you risk contamination? So yeah, it is in a way the condition in which people are living as just unbearable. Now, not to focus only on the negative side, that the great thing about Gaza is those people, they just crazily optimistic with all the things that they're living. They smiling all the time. I mean, you see that in the movie, and the movie is great for that, and I loved watching it because, to be honest, myself, I didn't go to Gaza since February because of the lockdown and the measures of COVID-19 as well, that I explained just before. I have teams over there, composed of people from Gaza, international staff as well being there, but I was not able to get in so far, so I was missing Gaza, I'm missing my team, I'm missing the people in the atmosphere over there, and getting back into this atmosphere in a way through the movie with all the tough part, but as well all the beautiful side of Gaza was great. And yeah, the movie pictures that in a great way. The food, the way of gathering, the way of living in Gaza, those smiles, this constant will to know what is happening outside, asking you questions, how things are going, and yet trust in the future despite all the uncertainty that they live.
Speaking of positive thoughts as well, the film captured many children of different ages, teens, etc., who are also sharing their thoughts and dreams for the future. So do you have the possibility to offer support, especially for the younger generation?
So what we do is, and as I said, in the longer term, in the access to business and access to employment. So when I talk younger generation, already young adults over there, but to foster ideas and the capacity to develop their business. And there we've got very great example of young people just starting shops, but as well starting apps and application on taking public transports in Gaza and how you would do that in Gaza directly, of others trying to start giving languages course outside as well, using internet to do that. So learn Arabic to people in Japan, in Bolivia, or wherever else as well, which give a great double opportunity of both learning what is happening outside, but as well for people to learn what is the situation in Gaza and learning Arabic in the meantime as well. So yes, that's for us the way of trying to put people to build their project as well, and in the meantime, of course, having a source of income.
Great. Wow. I would love to hear more of that, maybe during our live Q&A during the festival. Which brings me to my last question, actually. What are your demands towards the officials in Israel, and how political can you be as an NGO representative working in the region?
Well, for me, as an NGO, an international NGO, the best that we can do and that we're doing is just showing what is going on for the population over there, what is the impact, what are the consequences of this conflict, and to all the different sides of this conflict. And that's the best we can do. So that's what we try to focus in our advocacy messages as well. I mean, bear in mind the consequences of all the decisions that you're taking. Closing the border and the fuel to Gaza on the edge of an outbreak of COVID-19, yes, it has consequences for people, for 2 million people to live with 3 hours electricity under lockdown. To bear the consequences of a lockdown when you're at home and you don't have any other support for the government or whatever. I guess in Germany when it happened, people could have support from the government over there when you're in lockdown and you don't have any other sources of livelihood. This doesn't happen in Gaza at all. So yeah, our role is just to raise the voice of people in the population there and make people understand that those decisions and political decisions have consequences on their lives.
Yeah, sure. So that was the questions from my side. Thank you so much, Lucas. I wish you all the best for the future work in oPt. And I'm looking forward to talking to you during the festival.
Many thanks. Thanks to you, Leonie.